Hi everyone, it's Sean from STK Markets here today. We're sitting with Aegros for an update. There's a lot of exciting things happening at Aegros at the moment. Just like to say hi, John and Hari. Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's fantastic to be back.
Good to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We've got some really interesting things to update people with. There have been some massive changes at Aegros and some really good things that have happened. But what we'd like to find out first, which is I think on everybody's lips, how are the clinical trials going, guys? Are we getting any closer to finishing them?
The clinical trials are going very well. As we've said in the past, we wanted to make sure that what we have in terms of a product and the way that the clinical trial is run is exactly what we want. We want to do it correctly and we want to do it right. So we have now got a product that is with the CRO, the Clinical Research Organization, so that they can actually put this into candidates. We've actually recruited some candidates. I know that as of 5 minutes ago, we've already got 2 for the infusion for the Sentinel group. They have to go through a couple more tests. Hopefully, we will get those individuals infused with our hyperimmune product by the end of next week. So, and just to make it very clear, there's some confusion here about this. All we are looking at the end of the Sentinel group is for 3 days to make sure that the subjects do not suffer from any adverse effects. It's a safety parameter. We're not looking at anything else. This information will then be sent to the Human Ethics Committee. The Human Ethics Committee will then come back to us and say, go ahead, let's do 12 more. Now, I can tell you we are at the cusp of actually releasing the other batch, which will cover these 12 subjects, and we should then from that point onwards start recruiting and infusing very, very quickly. So in short, the clinical trial is doing really well and there's nothing, absolutely nothing to worry about.
But I think in addition to that, the critical thing is we've had a number of manufacturing batches which have resulted in the clinical trial material that we're now going to be injecting or infusing. So our manufacturing process is robust. We're seeing that time and time again. The clinical trial process, we've manufactured the product, but the clinical trial itself is largely out of our hands. It's up to the CRO and the centre to actually recruit and make sure that the people we bring in are people that will meet the criteria. And they're not just, are you healthy? They are a lot more. It's a lot more stringent than that, isn't it, Hari?
Yes, it is. I mean, we look at everything from their antibody levels. Now, very recently, because of co-infections or reinfections, and because of the fact that people have had a couple of doses more of the vaccination, their antibody levels are high. So you want to make sure that you're getting people whose antibody levels aren't that high so that we can actually measure the increase in the antibodies when we give our product. So look, it's all part and parcel of the normal rigor of a clinical trial. Now, the other thing that John mentioned, I think this is exciting. I've been in this business, I hate to say, for the last 40 years of my life, And I got to tell you, last couple of days, we've been doing some process validation runs in the company. And, we've been getting product which is 100% pure. I want to repeat this because it's 100% pure in one step. And after so many years as a medical scientist, I can tell you, it is still refreshing. It's still startling that there is a technology out there that can do this, because there is no other technology which will pull out this 100% pure plasma product in one step, right? And that's very exciting.
Yeah, and the other thing that I get excited about is that every time we do a run, we just get better at it. And so
we're supposed to.
Yeah, well, true. But we are in a research mode. Very soon, end of this month, once we complete this last batch of material, which is not for the clinical trial, but for the stability side of our product. Once that happens, we are going to stop the facility. We're going to break it down and the renovations start to lift the volume of product that we can process in our facility from around about 30,000 litres up to the 100,000 litres. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, more in a moment. But the critical thing is that even so, we're doing it at an R&D level, which means that you have a lot more people there. You have processes which are not ideally set up for manufacture, and we are still seeing some staggering results.
Yeah. And just this is in fact a nice segue, because once we stop and start building, and by the way, there are cabins outside our warehouse ready to go. We will have already in the warehouse, we have already in the warehouse $8 million worth of equipment. We will then have I think there's one further lot of equipment coming in from Cytiva, and then the large hemofrac, the one that is being built in Barcelona at the moment, that will arrive in August. Very recently, in fact, last week, we had what is known as a factory acceptance test, FAT. And what they do there is to test to see that the equipment that they have built actually works according to the specifications that we want. So we've had engineers from our company there so that they can witness and test themselves that the system works. And
it was over 5 days.
So over 5 days, and I have to tell you, the results are exemplary. We now have a system that will process between 100 to 150,000 liters of plasma in very rapid time. And there will be, I'm sure that this particular presentation, you will see a video of that being tested. And it is just simply technically awesome. Absolutely awesome.
That's fantastic. With that testing of the system in Spain, there were other companies present when that was happening, showing the high yield, the purity, that are other potential strategic partners that witnessed that, weren't they? Because that brings me to the next point: how's strategic partnership going?
Without divulging names or anything, there was more than one fractionator that attended that FAT, that factory acceptance testing. And normally in those sorts of testing procedures, you do not run plasma, you do not run proteins, you just run water. We took the next step. So we ran albumin through the system to make sure that we do get transfer from one side of the membrane to the other. And it was achieved in remarkably fast time.
Matter of minutes.
Yeah. The relevant other parties that were there saw this, and there were a lot of questions around that as to the yields and everything else, but they were surprised, I think would be a nice way of putting it.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that we could get transfer in a matter of minutes, because normally these things take days using existing processes. So it was without doubt a roaring success.
One of the things that makes me think about was when we had that article that was talking to that we can't scale. Here we've just proven in a testing setting that we've gone from 30,000 to 150,000 litres a year, which is 5 times. All we've got to do is line these machines up next to each other in the 1 million litre facility up in Queensland. We've just proven we can scale this thing. So that's another achievement in itself.
Yeah. I think I'm glad you brought this up, Sean, because the AFR article is nothing that we're going to shy away from.
No.
AFR article was, and I'm be very, very clear about it, inaccurate in so many ways that it's not even funny. Having said that, we are not the sort of company that's going to go out there and suddenly become defensive. That's not where we are. In order to address the issues, this is what we have done. We've actually, you're absolutely right, shown that this technology is not only scalable, but it's hugely scalable. Yeah. All right. And in fact, all you have to do, and a lot of our shareholders have already done that, they've actually walked into our facility. Now, you tell me which part of that you see as being a laboratory scale instrument.
And that's only the 30,000 litre capacity.
Now, on top of that, what we've done is that we've actively gone out there and we are sponsoring a workshop session together with the University of Queensland on July the 5th in UQ, in Brisbane, where we are going to be very independent about it. We'll sponsor the session, but we're going to have 3 companies actually provide their way of scaling up. So issues with things like chromatography, how that is actually scaled up. And then one of our representatives is actually going to show how we scale up. And let me tell you, the approach is so totally different, right? And it's akin to a solar panel being duplicated. One solar panel, 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatts. And that's exactly what we do, which is very unlike anyone else. Now, on top of that, right, what I've asked our scientists to do, and me included, I will be part of the authorship, is for us to be able to write a manuscript. Because one of the things that came up was, I don't see any scientific data. Well, I'm sorry, there are papers that I've written over many, many years which actually give you the scientific data. But let's talk about our product right now. We are writing a detailed paper which will then be submitted to a reputable journal, peer-reviewed and published. And that data will be part of the data which we will then submit also to the TGA. So there is absolutely no question, and it shouldn't be in any of our shareholders' minds or prospective investors, about the veracity and also the technical ability of the hemofrac.
Wow, it just gets better and better. There's quite a few other things that we've got to get over quickly through here today. And one of the things that people have asked me is that, can Aegros secure blood to sell its products with? And
first of all, we're not securing blood. It's plasma that we are securing. Yeah, no. It's a common misnomer.
But it's an important difference.
Yes, it is. So otherwise we'd get Dracula in line. But putting that aside, yes, we have already secured 100,000 litres of convalescent plasma. So that's plasma from those people who have recovered from COVID. This is all coming out of the US. And
if I can just correct that, it's 100,000 litres a year for the next 3 years.
True. Yeah. And we can get more. This is a contract that gives us security to manufacture the product up to the level that we have budgeted for, which is the 100,000 litres in the full year, starting from either the end of this year or the beginning of next year, depending on when we get that TGA GMP license. We'll talk about that in a moment. So
we are also sourcing a further 100,000 litres a year for the next 3 years from a European source as well. And hopefully we'll get that particular contract signed off in the next few weeks.
But I think the more important point to make here, yes, we've managed to do that, and that's because of the experience we have. We know where the plasma supplies are. It's our history. We've worked in this area. But the more relevant point is, once we go into Queensland and we need 1 million litres a year, how are you going to get that? Well, for us, getting the plasma is less of an issue. We can afford to pay more for the plasma than any other fractionator. And so it's not Aegros that's going to have the problem getting plasma. It's going to be whoever the low or the sick man of the plasma industry is. And I feel sorry for that person, but we will get the plasma.
And the more important aspect of this is, unlike any other usable technology out there, we can use plasma from emerging nations as well. The products will go back to them. It won't be sold in the Australian market, but it can go back to them. And those products will be of the same quality and safety as we manufacture for our Australian market. And no other technology can actually do that, and ours can.
That's just exciting. So 3 years worth of plasma going through the facility in Sydney at 100,000 litres. I've seen the expectations. That's about 600 million a year. So over 3 years, once you've got those sale contracts, potentially that's 1.8 billion in revenue for Aegros.
Yes,
that's right.
That's quite remarkable. We're certainly moving forward. The next thing too, which we saw when you went to Brisbane, we saw some photos come through. What's happened up in Queensland with the 1 million litre facility? Has there been any progress there?
We've signed off on a heads of agreement with Springfield. We are working through contracts about the actual ground. We are looking at scoping and negotiating with a number of companies about a build and lease back. We have actually put in, and we are awaiting approval for the development application. That we expect that to happen in the next 6 weeks. This has got to do with administrivia more than anything else. We know that the initial responses that we've received from government authorities over there are very positive. There are no showstoppers. So on top of that, our engineering company, with Damien Thornton heading it, has been looking at various contractors for things like the building, for environmental sites, sewage, you name it. So literally, there's a lot of work being done in the background. But having said all that, the way we are focusing in, and we got to remember this, right? Because if you don't have focus, you don't get things done. We are looking firstly at the clinical trial. We have to finish the clinical trial. 2, Project Falcon, which is the project of upgrading our facility over here. That's what 5 Eden Park. That's what we have to do as well. So there's a lot of resources and concentration on that. And finally, you're then looking at a TGA approval of that facility. And whilst all this is being done, we will of course look at Springfield. But Springfield is something that is a work in progress while everything else is being done.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, timing wise, clinical trial is now on track, and we, other than the expense of it, it's largely out of our operational hands. So 5 is what starts to become the focus of our operational people from the beginning of June. We expect to finish that by the end of November, which is the time that we will then turn towards starting Queensland. So we are talking about breaking ground in Queensland before the end of this calendar year. And you can see how step by step, we're not being defocused. We are making sure we focus on one thing, complete it, move on to the next thing, and complete it. And delivering, it's one of our prime values.
That's fantastic. Now, you're talking about November delivering the GMP accreditation so we can actually turn the machine on and start creating revenue. Now that you've locked in the plasma, you've got your GMP done, you're ready to go. Has there been any interest from domestic or overseas governments for CovImmune or any of your products so far? Because I definitely know I'm hearing scuttlebutt.
We don't have TGA approval for the facility which we are about to renovate. That will not occur until after we've got the facility up and we then get the TGA to come in and do an audit. So I'm expecting that end of this year.
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
Yeah. So that is something which we have to redo because you've changed the facility. You have to bring them back in and get them to revalidate it. Not that we expect problems, but it's just a step you've got to go through. And then there's, once we complete the clinical trial, we lodge that data with the TGA and they will review it, may have questions which we'll have to deal with, whatever, but we expect then to get registration of our COVID-19 hyperimmune, and we expect that to come through by the end of this calendar year, beginning of next of 2024, in that first quarter to last quarter of 2023. When that happens, that's when we can start to sell.
Yeah. Yes, but to answer your question directly, we get on an everyday level people from overseas, from various other companies, governments, etc., asking if we are ready to supply them with plasma products. So the demand is very much out there. It's a question of us delivering.
Yeah. Now, with regard to Australia, we have to be careful what we say. What I think we can say is we are talking to the clinicians. They are very excited. And there is a process we need to go through with the National Blood Authority to get a new product on. The parties that are relevant are fully aware of what we are doing, and I do not believe there's any negativity, but there is a process we have to go through.
And we keep them informed.
Yeah.
And we have people, our chief medical officer, etc., who keep all these organizations informed of where we are and how we are going to go about getting to where we are as well.
There is presentations of the results in ISTH.
Yes, we will be presenting some aspects of our work at the International Society for Thrombosis and Hemostasis, which is going to hold a conference in June of this year in Montreal, in Canada. We are also doing a similar sort of thing at the Blood Conference, which is a conference that's going to be held in Melbourne, believe it or not, over the Melbourne Cup weekend. So we are actively out there. Our people are putting together scientific and medical presentations. There's a clinical trial abstract which will more, I think, highlight the sort of clinical trials that we envisage for our immunocompromised group. Will be one of the abstracts that will be presented in Melbourne. So a lot of work on both the technical and medical level done in the company in the background.
But at this stage, I have no reason to have any concerns whatsoever on the sales side. If anything, I am more bullish than I have been at any stage.
Okay, that sounds great. So summarising, the strategic partnership, you've had other fractionators come check out the hemofrac getting tested. They can see it scales, they can see it works. So those negotiations with Macquarie Bank, they're obviously keeping on going.
They are, but I think we need to temper the time frame here. I don't see this concluding until the end of this calendar year. And the reason for that is I think we're in what they would describe as an information phase at the moment. There is a healthy degree of skepticism, as you can understand, among the existing players, not just the fractionators, the existing pharma companies, on the basis that everyone understands chromatography, but what is this new hemofrac thing? And how does it do so quantum order more than anything that can be done using existing processes? So I truly believe it will take not just the fat, it'll take the results of the clinical trial and probably even the first few runs in our facility once we get that up and running in November, before there will be an absolute urgency for the participants in this auction to say, I fear to miss out. So the FOMO effect will start to take over. And that is when I truly expect we will see the auction process start in earnest.
Fantastic. Okay, that's been a lot of information today. It obviously sounds all very positive. The timeline, I think, we'll finish up on today. Do you guys just want to speak to what you see happening over the next 12 months as Aegros progresses towards that IPO next year?
In the short term, there's a couple of things. We've got the presentation we're doing to the investors down in Melbourne on the 14th of June. We have the meeting in Brisbane on the 5th of July. We have yet to announce it, but I'm expecting an EGM before the middle of July, and we'll discuss what that's about. It's not regarding funding. So I think that is something else that will be a point where shareholders can talk to us. And then we're going to be talking about clinical trial.
Yep. And also in the background, as I said, over the next few months, the upgrade of the facility here in 5 Eden Park Drive, Macquarie Park. We're then looking at the TGA revisiting us so that we can get approval of their tick for the manufacturing. We will then be applying. By that stage, we will have clinical trial data for registration with the ARTG, the Australian Registry of Therapeutic Goods, so that we can now then start selling. So there are a number of things. And in the meantime, we are also putting together a very strong middle management, which includes things like a chief marketing and salesperson, a chief financial officer, and also a CEO for our therapeutics company as well. So, the whole thing is to have the infrastructure, the resources ready for us to be going into next year, selling the product, and then getting ourselves ready for the IPO.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just outstanding. Obviously, a lot of the work you're doing, you're growing the business. It does need money until we hit revenue. What are your capital requirements, and have you got those planned over the next 12 months?
Thanks, Sean. Yes, definitely. We are capital intensive at the moment. And right now, once we have the results from this next Sentinel group of dosing, we'll be doing a 20 mil capital raise, and that'll be done at $12.50 per share. We're expecting that to occur as part of the meeting we're going to have down in Melbourne on the 14th of June. In addition to that, there's at least $18 million that we'll be getting back as part of our R&D cash refund. That should be coming in around about the September, October mark. We also Further down the track, we'll be getting a significant sum of money from the strategic investor, and don't forget, half of that will be going into the company as new shares, and half of that will be going to buy back shares from our existing shareholders. So they will see some significant return on their investment to this point. And just
well before the IPO.
Yeah, well before the IPO. And just to sort of put some color around that, it's going to be, I believe, beyond the $1 billion valuation that we actually do this, because we've taken the company significantly further. So you're talking, I don't want to pluck numbers, but you're talking orders of magnitude above where everyone has come into at this point in time.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure to see you. Always onwards and upwards when we talk. Good luck with the rest of the trials. Obviously, it's going very well. So, yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to you down in Melbourne. Obviously, we'll be in touch. Thank you for attending.
Onwards and upwards.
Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Damien Thornton. I'm the CEO of Aegros Therapeutics and Engineering. I'm here today with Jordy Putsch, the CEO of Telstar, at the Telstar headquarters in Terrassa, just outside Barcelona. We are here today to start the factory acceptance test of our new HFO2. This is an evolution of our technology and is capable of, from an 8 separation unit, producing and processing up to 150,000 litres of blood plasma per annum. Once we have finished the FAT, then Telstar will dismantle the hemofrac and will basically send it across to our hyperimmune facility in Macquarie Park in Sydney. Jordy, anything you want to add?
Yeah, we are very happy to collaborate with Aegros in the evolution of this solution. We are pretty sure that this will be a paradigm shift in the blood plasma fractionation, and we are very happy to contribute a little bit with this machine.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Hari Nair. I'm the co-founder and executive chair of the Australian plasma fractionation company Aegros. I am a hematologist by training and I have a PhD in medicine and clinical science. I also co-invented the hemofrac system, which I'd like to share with you today. Human plasma comes from human blood and it can be used in many ways. One of the most important uses of human plasma is for us to be able to manufacture proteins, biological proteins used in therapy like immunoglobulins, albumin, clotting factors, and many other proteins for many other therapies. Plasma is a crucial therapeutic agent used very commonly in most hospitals around the world. Immunoglobulins can be manufactured from human plasma. Immunoglobulins are antibodies that are produced in the human body. In the current context, immunoglobulins, or what we call hyperimmunes from convalescing patients, play an immediate role in giving passive immunity or protection in people who may be exposed to COVID. Current fractionation uses the Cohn-Onkli-Nishman system. This is a multi-step process using things like temperature, alcohol, and many other factors in precipitating proteins, which can ultimately be then fractionated into plasma. The most important factor here is that it includes many steps and ultimately a longer time and with heavy losses in final production of the protein. In contrast, the Aegros hemofrac system is a 4-step system. It has one capture step and it does it very rapidly. The hemofrac fractionation system is composed of 3 membranes, one at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. The protein molecules are charged negative or positive, and when the electrical field is turned on, you get the transfer of the molecule or the positive immunoglobulins into the lower stream for collection. Significantly, the hemofrac fractionation system contains only 4 steps compared to the multi-step cone fractionation system. In spite of that, you get high purity, high yield, and lower running costs. Aegros is in North Ryde in Sydney. It is a 4,500 square meter facility, and it has been recently audited by the TGA. We are Australia's 2nd plasma fractionation facility. Self-sufficiency is the most important effect of having a second plasma fractionation plant. Self-sufficiency is an ambition, a goal that is aspired to by both federal and state governments. Now, in Australia, we can only supply 46% of what we need in terms of plasma products. That's 46%, and therefore the reliance is on imported products, which you can see here in yellow. Now, if Aegros gets 25% of the plasma that's collected in Australia, because of its ability to give you very high yields, you are now going to be able to cut down on the imported products. There's also a reduction in costs because of those high yields. A second scenario, let's take 50%. When you have 50%, that reliance on imported products goes down even further. When you have 75%, you get a savings of nearly $32 million, and that is a significant impact on our public health system. The current pandemic that has hit the world does focus in on the mutations of the coronavirus. The Alpha, the Delta, there's a Lambda coming up, and who knows what other mutations will actually show. Pandemic preparedness is something that we have been forced to focus on because of the current outbreak of the Delta strain of the coronavirus. The HEMOFRAC system allows us to react to the pandemonium almost immediately because the fractionation of hyperimmunes from convalescing patients who've just been infected with COVID-19 Delta allows you to get updated antibodies to give you immediate protection to the population. The HEMOFRAC is a simple, efficient plasma fractionation system, most importantly using a single capture step. Hello, I'm Professor Hari Nair, co-founder of Aegros, here to introduce the Australian-invented HEMOFRAC. Housed in our state-of-the-art 4,000 square meter plant in Sydney, we use the HEMOFRAC to make Cobimmune, a hyperimmune against COVID-19. Research and development is key to our success, creating a revolutionary four-step process with yields of 90% and product purity of 99%. Membrane technology is the heart of HEMOFRAC, and we make our own right here on site. The HEMOFRAC lives in our TGA GMP approved clean rooms, making hyperimmunes from blood plasma. And we have our own extensive warehouse capacity. Aegros is replicating our HEMOFRAC all over the world as we aim to provide self-sufficiency in blood plasma medicines, in line with the WHO mandate. We are Aegros, patients first through innovation.